Thank you, Mike. As always, I really appreciate you opening up the service that way.
I know, it's great.
Just really, really great. So welcome. So glad that everybody is here today. Excuse me. Voice does fine until I step up here, get behind the mic, and then it goes. Do you suppose that's telling me something?
Yeah, I do.
What? Shut up? Be still. Peace, peace, be still.
Peace be still.
Well, scratch that. As I remind you each week, lighting the Christ candle here is strictly meant to be a visual of the Christ light that is within all of us at all points in time. You're never alone, regardless. It is always there, always ready to give you peace, give you love, give you happiness, give you all the really true things, because it brings out what we really are, which are spiritual beings having a human experience. So that's the Christ light. And now I'm going to ask Jean if she'll do the opening prayer.
Certainly. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's so good to be here on this glorious Sunday. So let's just take a moment. And if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, do so. As we listen to that small, still voice in each of us, the voice that says, "Wherever I am, God is, and all is well." For I know that we are each here by divine appointment in order to more fully open our minds, our hands, and our hearts, and allow life to flow more freely, more joyously, more abundantly. And I say thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Jean. And now I believe we're going to do a congregational song, "This Little Light of Mine," and the words of it are in your bulletin on the inside back cover.
And let's stand again because, yeah, we have to for this. Yeah. I don't have the words. Oh, there we go.
In the second verse, let's say, "When I'm with others, I'm going to let it shine." And then we'll do "Everywhere I go, I'm going to let it shine." Got it?
All right.
Okay. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go. No, how about when I'm with others, I'm gonna let it
Very good. Very nice. Thank you so much, Mike. And at this time, I remind everybody of our prayer box. You'll find prayer requests on the back of the pews. And if you'd like to fill one out and put it in the bowls when they come around, or either bring it up and put it in the box or in the prayer corner drawer back there, because once a month these are sent back to Silent Unity, where they are prayed over for an additional 30 days in the Silent Unity Prayer Chapel. So a lot of power goes into that. And John, it's time for your announcements. Your turn.
Hey, John. Yeah.
There you go.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see so many of you managed to remember it was Fall Forward Day. I did. I will probably have some more come in here in about an hour, just in time for snacks. That'll be okay. I remembered. I did it. I'm a little out of round today, though. I left the house. She reminded me to get my glasses, reminded me to get my cell phone, but I forgot my billfold and my keys and
And your driver's
my
license?
driver's license and my
Fall forward,
all of that.
fall backward.
No, I fell forward. I like to do things a little different. All right. Guess what? It's Birthday Sunday. And a very special Birthday Sunday at that. Can anyone tell me why it's so special?
It's your birthday.
You got that. In honor of this momentous occasion, I cooked up a batch of pumpkin chocolate brownies. They're made with pumpkin stuff that I grew this year in my garden.
Special pie pumpkins.
Yeah. They are not gluten-free, however, because I don't know how to grow gluten-free pumpkins. I did make every effort not to add any of those GMO things people are always talking about. They're downstairs and waiting for us after the service.
You didn't already eat them all?
I didn't eat any of them.
I find that hard to believe.
And there's other goodies down there too, because Reverend Jean Celia
also.
brought stuff, so we got stuff. Speaking of next week, which we weren't, Reverend Lorena Smith will be with us, so be sure and join us for that. Then on the 19th, which happens to be just prior to Thanksgiving, we're having a special Thanksgiving service with both Reverend Georgie Richardson and Reverend Lorena. They're going to do a tag team match. I don't know what they're going to do, but anyway, they're doing a combined thing. That'll be a don't miss service. Also, speaking of Pete, which actually we weren't doing that either, join us for our Wednesday night dinner with Pete. Why not? The food's great, Pete's great, the company's great, and the live performance by Stevie Wonder will be amazing. We always hear, let's have more activities at Unity by the Sea. So here's one. Join us. It's Wednesday night. We do it at 5:30. And we're going to keep doing spaghetti. Okay, he's got baskets full of spaghetti. So we'll be doing spaghetti for a while. The new house for the golf cart is here. It's downstairs. Michael has cleared, there's Michael, has cleared a nice spot for it to live. So we'll be putting it together as soon as we can. We had thought we were going to do that today. Pete was actually going to bring the Hume slaves with him.
Our grandchildren.
But we called it off because we thought it was going to be really stormy. Well, it was kind of stormy at our place last night, but no, not so bad. But we'll put it together as soon as we can. Okay. And last thing, if you forgot to fall forward this morning, don't worry. You can always do it next week. That's it.
No, you can't do it next week.
You can't?
No. It's just once every 6 months.
Oh.
You don't get another hour next week also.
It's straightforward.
I found it so amazing. We had an extra hour this morning, and he was still late. It's like, do you have your glasses? Didn't know I had to ask if he had his wallet.
Well,
That's a new one.
if he says he's going to take you to lunch, beware, because he doesn't have his billfold.
Oh, that's standard.
Okay.
That's standard. And speaking of the golf cart, I wanted to thank Marcy and Tom and Cheryl because they did the checking out work and everything at Home Depot and found one for us. And so thank you very much for making those efforts. It did get a little interesting because when John tried to get it lined up and everything, for them to deliver it, it was going to cost another $300. Yeah, for them to deliver it was another $300. We said, that can't happen. So we found out that we were able to get that changed if we did not order it online, if we went into the store and ordered it. So John and I went to Salem, went to Home Depot. Interesting, to say the least. So it did not cost us $300 to have it delivered, but it still cost $100 or so to have it delivered. But yes. You know. So anyway, it is here. It's at the bottom of the driveway because at least, fortunately, we were able to have them bring it on down the hill. Because at first thought it was they're going to leave it up here. I'm going, oh, that's not going to work at all. So fortunately, was able to have it at least at the bottom of the hill. So thank you for your efforts. That was very much appreciated. And then also I wanted to say, let everybody know that the new coffee machine downstairs that makes just a really nice cup of coffee, 1 cup at a time with our own roasted beans and so forth. This was a gift from John to the church. So wanted to acknowledge that. And now, oh,
Daily affirmation.
yes, we're going to do our November affirmation. If you will join me with that, please. We'll do the cards are in your bulletin, and we'll do the one for Unity by the Sea first. Unity by the Sea gratefully receives God's abundance and shares it joyfully. And then for ourselves, I gratefully receive God's abundance and share it joyfully. Okay. I'm going to read the daily word today, and there's a special reason for this. I was going through some things the other day, and I ran into something that I had written a number of times, and it was, this is a doo-dah day. I'm going, huh, and this is from several years ago. So I'm looking at that, this is a doo-dah day. Well, I certainly wish I could remember what that's supposed to mean, because I wrote it enough times. So obviously, at that point in time, it had some special significance. Well, I kept looking, and I kept going through stuff, and was reading more journaling and so forth. And what I finally found out was that a doo-dah day was a divine order, divine action day. So that is a doo-dah day. So today I'm taking a look at the daily word. Divine order. Oh, okay. So I'm reading it today. I gratefully surrender to the spiritual certainty that my life is in divine order. The idea of surrender can be alarming to my limited mortal mind and seemingly synonymous with defeat. In truth, however, surrender is an essential spiritual step that allows divine order to guide every choice and challenge in my life. Divine order is the essence of all life, the infinite love in which I live and move and have my being. Acts 17:28. Divine order is always present and always expressing. So any perceived absence of order tells me that I am allowing my mortal mind to stray from the loving guidance of my spiritual self. Divine order's my choice. I exchange fear-based priorities and expectations for the presence within, my constant, loving guide to a life of joy and peace. And from Jeremiah 29:11, we have, "For surely I know the plans I have for you, to give you a future with hope."
Zippity-doo-dah,
Zippity-day, oh my, what a wonderful day. Sing of sunshine, play away. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. So I wish all of you, all of us, an extremely wonderful and blessed doo-dah day.
It's pretty hard to follow that, I don't know.
As I say, changes that have taken place this morning are just, none of that was planned ahead of time. This is just,
Pretty amazing.
yes.
Before the message and meditation this morning, speaking of change, in your bulletin on the purple sheet is Blessing for a Church by James Stillett Freeman. And you know, has been to Unity by the Sea, was quite often.
Yes.
And
You met him.
I've met him, yes. He's since passed, but yes, I did. And so this prayer really spoke to Judy, and so she printed copies and put it in each of our bulletins. And I would appreciate it if we all read this together and really let it resonate and feel it in our hearts.
There's a little more history on this also.
Okay?
This particular prayer was originally written by Jim Freeman for Unity by the Sea in Glen Beach.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he wrote that when that church was dedicated. And that's why we have over there on the wall next to the prayer thing, that is this prayer that has been signed by Jim Freeman. So it is used with the opening of Unity churches and centers and everything since that point in time. But originally, it was penned and written for Unity by the Sea in Glen Beach.
Oh, how special is that?
Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
my gosh. Let's read these words together. This is God's house. May we who come here not only find out about God, but find God. May there be beauty in this place, especially may it be a place where men and women become aware of the beauty in themselves. May this be a place of worship. May this be a place of instruction. May this be a place of singing. May this be a place of prayer. But for us who worship and take instruction and sing and pray, may this always be a place of inner stillness, where we may listen and hear when God speaks. May whoever ministers here minister in love. May whoever teaches here teach truth. May whoever serves here serve pleasantly. May everyone come into this house in expectation and go with thanksgiving. And may anyone who comes needing help go feeling blessed. May this be such a house that Jesus Christ or any stranger, even one of the least, would feel in it that he or she was with friends. Amen. That is so beautiful. Thank you. That is so beautiful. Thanks.
I'm done.
All right. Changing of the guard, so to speak. Well, as I'm getting my things together, I just want to say that last week, I know it seems like a long time ago, but it was Halloween, right? And so I read this and I didn't even know the answer until I read the answer. So when witches go to school, when they go to witching school, what do they learn there? Spelling. I know, I amuse myself. I thought that was pretty funny. Okay then. My talk this morning is about where do I belong? Where do I really belong? Where do you belong? Where do we belong? Where do I belong? Really? I'm not quite sure. Do you know where you belong? I want to say this has been something, this idea, I've been really wrestling with this past maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And I don't know quite how to say this, except it's all Mike's fault. All his fault, because for my birthday I got in the mail a book by Louise Penny, and it was called Still Life. And I said, what the heck, I never heard of Louise Penny. And he said, oh, I read a review about it in the paper. It's a murder mystery, and it sounded like something you would really like. I said, oh, just what I need, another book, another author. And so I read it, and oh my gosh, I was hooked. And so rather than buying me the next book and the next and the next, he goes to the Driftwood Library. And so the most recent one I read, I think it's her third, called The Cruelest Month. And her hero, similar to Hercule Poirot, only this is set in Canada, in Quebec, and her hero is Monsieur l'Inspecteur Gamache. And so Mr. Gamache, in this book, was talking to one of the folks who report to him, kind of teaching them the ropes and what to think about in working and solving a mystery. And he said, what else do people want other than to belong? And I read that a couple of times and I thought, isn't that the crux of it? The crux of life. What more do we want other than to belong? Really, to belong somewhere, to feel like we belong. And so that notion just stayed with me about the sense of belonging. And I could kind of feel myself, I'm a Star Trek fan, and so kind of sucked into a downward spiral through a wormhole, In fact, we just watched Orville last night, and they went kind of through this wormhole. And I just kind of closed my eyes and enjoyed the fall and the notion of, where do I belong really? What else do people want? What do you want other than to belong? And so I kind of deep dived and wrestled with it and floated with it. And I worked with, the metaphoric onion, how we peel the onion away, peel away layers and layers of judgments and opinions and fears when we cover that very core of who we are with all of these layers. And I think that the onion story works quite well because it creates tears, which I had a lot of this last month, and you have to peel away or actually have to do something in order to get to the next level of consciousness, if you will. And I can tell you, I have peeled a lot of virtual onions in my life. You probably have as well. So Mike and I used to live up Highland Estates, Highland Road. I don't know if you know that. We lived there for probably 10 or 12 years. And I remember one time we were in the kitchen, and I don't know what was going, but there was a problem with something, and Mike said, oh, well, I don't have a whatever it was, a wrench or whatever it was. And he said, you always need the right tool for the job. And I remembered that from all those years ago. And so I thought, what is the right tool for this job to knowing where I belong? What's the right tool? Because I have from time to time kind of worked my way through things and ended up at the same place. You know, what's the definition of insanity? To keep doing the same thing over and over. It reminded me a little bit that last week Mike, a neighbor of ours, was wanting to change out their yard. And so Mike went and he dug up maybe 30 plants. And he transplanted them into our yard. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that when they bloom, they will bloom the same flower that they bloomed in the other yard, right? And so when we keep planting the same plants, the same seeds, the same thoughts, we get the same bloom. Keep doing the same thing over and over, and you'll get the same result. And so I thought, okay, what tools do I need? Not the shovel and the wheelbarrow that Mike got at Ace Hardware. My tools of choice are probably the same as yours. Meditation. Get quiet. Contemplation. Kind of be with something. I chant. I often say affirmations as I walk to my stance. And prayer. And prayer. And so I began to use those tools to peel back the next layer. And what I saw in meditation was not an onion, but rather a ball of lace with layers that I could gently lift up like a veil and see the next layer of lace. And sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes it's like the veil begins to lift and I can see that next layer of my experience of consciousness, and then all of a sudden it snaps shut and I get bungee corded back. And it's like, well, I know I was almost there, but not quite. And that happened several times this past month or so. So I thought, okay, where do I belong? Do I belong at Unity by the Sea? Probably. Do I feel like I belong? Most of the time. How about in Lincoln City? How about in Salem? Because some of you know I work full-time in Salem, and so I'm there during the week. How about at work? Well, most of the time. Where do you feel like you belong? Here? At your house? Somewhere else? In a park? Where do you feel totally like, yes, I so belong here, that everything is just flowing? About a week and a half ago, I went on an interview for a fairly high-level job, and I wasn't going to apply for it, and I finally just said, okay, God, if this is mine, it is. If not, not. I'll just apply. I'll just put it out there and not cut off options. It's in your hands. And so I applied, and I found out last week I did not get the job. And what do you think my first reaction was? Well, how could they give it to so-and-so? They don't have nearly as much experience as me, right? It's like, Jean, stop. Was this God in God's hands or not? Right? It's so much easier to look out there to determine where I belong. It's like, well, I belong there. Oh my gosh. So I thought, okay, Jean, get out those tools, because it's not anything out there. It's time to delve deeper. It is so much easier to talk about them. And what I know is there is no them. I am them. I am always them. And the only way to move onward is to move inward. Okay, so where do I belong? And I can tell you, as you probably know from experience, moving inward in order to move onward is a courageous journey, not for the faint-hearted. Because it's so easy to bungee cord back. I brought a cartoon, which you know typically often speak to me. It's a non sequitur. And there's a sign there, someone's on a path, and it says, "The road much less traveled." And there's a pathway like a track that just has all these footprints on it. And then there's a pathway up a hill that is totally, totally clean, no footsteps. And it says, "The moral high ground, warning, practicing what you preach required." I thought, oh my gosh, really? Okay, maybe it wasn't meant to be my job. Just maybe. It was in God's hands. This morning, Mike and I were watching Fareed Zakara, which is one of our, we enjoy that Sunday morning show. And he was talking about the New York terrorists, the terrorist in New York this past week. I'm sure you know the story about the bike path. And what Fareed said, he said, the terrorist was unhappy with his existence for many years. I guess they've done a lot of research since then and found that he has been profoundly unhappy. And the way he dealt with being unhappy was to turn to, as Fareed said, his basal motivation. What is that fear that I won't exist anymore? What is that kind of tribal basic instinct? And he became radicalized. Because that is so often much easier than looking inward. To slip into, oh, it's the blame game, the fear, the doubt. Oh, it's not about me, it's about that guy who chose somebody who is not nearly as good as me. No, that is not the truth. Oh, and so I said, okay, Jean, what did you expect? What do I expect? What are your expectations of church? What are your expectations of a job or of a relationship? I can tell you that what I know is expectations get me into trouble every time because I am putting my opinions, my expectations on somebody else, and then when they don't behave exactly the way I think they should, like hiring me, oh my gosh, I don't belong here. Go into that spiral. Giving our power to other humans to let us know if we belong, if we're okay. And I can tell you that when I look at people have their arms crossed and I can say, oh, well, he's not listening to me, he's not paying attention to me, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? Right? Can we go there sometimes? Sometimes I say, I don't know, does Judy really respect me, really? I don't know these things. And that seed of doubt begins to plant itself and grow, just like the plants that Mike transplanted from the neighbor's yard. And they blossom into the seed that's transplanted. Ernest Holmes would say many times, I have recordings of him, and he says, when you plant a potato, you will reap a potato. What are you planting? If you want to reap something else, if you want to harvest a tomato, then plant tomato seeds. And it's like, if I want to be more self-confident and be more at peace, I get to plant peace thoughts and peace feelings. Otherwise, I'll get a potato instead of peace. What else do people want other than to belong? How long do we need to keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, expecting a different flower from that same plant, right? And so I was sitting in meditation with this, and it's all going, and it felt almost like chaos. Like, Jean, you've been here before, you know your expectations get you into trouble. Where do you belong? Who knows where you belong? And all of a sudden I heard, Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. And there was that shift, and it's like, oh yeah, I belong wherever I am. Because I am the light of God wherever I am. It's not about anyone out there telling me I'm okay. Like when Terry Cole Whitaker wrote, what you think of me is none of my business. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. I belong just because I am God in action. It is a doodah day every day. I know that. It's kind of interesting that we read Jim Phillips' prayer that he wrote for Unity by the Sea, because what I want to share is the prayer for protection that he wrote, that we read together every Sunday, because he first wrote it as a 4-line poem, if you will. And he wrote it in 1940 when there was such a need for a sense of protection, that people were feeling the effects of war and of violence and of fear and of death. And he thought, we need to know that we are protected. And this is what he wrote. It's a little different than what we say every week. This is what he originally wrote. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever I am, God is. That is a bold poem to write in the middle of a war. And it is a necessary one. Do I belong? What I can tell you is that looking outside for validation of our sense of self-worth, putting so much stock in the opinion of others, points to a sense of doubt and a deep sense of separation from God. Because the closer we feel to God, we know that we are one, the more we know that wherever I am, God is, and all is well. So much easier to look outside for our self-worth, to let somebody else know if I belong, because, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have had to shed all those tears these past 3 weeks to remind myself of something I already know. But it so gets covered up again and again. And it's like rediscovering the same Christmas present over and over. That Christmas present will not change. I'm the one who covers it up. I can tell you that. Humans need to belong, to be connected, to be loved and valued and nurtured and cherished. We need that. And guess what? We already are. We already are, always. We are never alone. We are never separated. We are never judged, and we are never ignored. Because wherever we are, God is. There is no separation. Ever. We can look the other way and not remember that separation, but we can never, ever, ever be separated. You and I always belong, without doubt. Beyond all opinions, wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Bring it home. Know it in your heart. Be the love and the belonging that you choose to be. You cannot not belong. You cannot not belong, and we try. I try. Love, belonging is who and what we are, always, every moment. Wherever God is, I am, right here, right now, and all is well. We belong, always, wherever we are.